to that. It wides. Brush my teeth. Figure that out.
выборочному севу начальника приступили сегодня хозяйства южных районов Таджикистана. Из-за холодных и дождливых дней в начале весны механизаторы вывели посевные агрегаты гораздо позже обычного. В нынешнем году основная ставка сделана хлопководами на сокращение расхода семян, вырученных времени, труда и средств.
Today I'm going to talk about an anime that I probably should have covered a long time ago, the most important magical girl show that you've probably never heard of, or maybe you have, I don't know. Today's video is Magical Princess Minky Momo from 1982, and trust me, you're going to want to see this video all the way to the end, because it is one of the craziest stories I have ever covered on this channel. I hope you enjoy it. Magical Princess Minky Momo is a TV series that aired in Japan in 1982. Our main character Momo lives in a dreamland in outer space where her parents watch over the hopes and dreams of mankind, but after 1,000 years it's drifted so far away from planet Earth that her parents need to send her down to the planet to fix things. Momo does this in the most magical girl way possible by brainwashing a childless couple into believing that she's their real daughter. While on Earth, she spends the show just doing what magical girls do best, solving people's problems and making people happy. Hey, it's a magical girl show, they're not really known for their story, so just stick with me for a second, okay? Most of the time she does this with her magic wand, and every episode she turns into a magic adult with a different costume to get things done. This is all pretty standard stuff right now, sure, but this was a brand new idea back in 1982, and when you break it down, it was just a fun way to show some girls different jobs that they might want to get when they grow up. Momo becomes a firewoman, she becomes a policewoman in one episode, then she becomes a nurse, and even a professional tennis player in one episode, and if she helps enough people, the world of dreams just might return back to planet Earth. And just like with most cartoons from the 1980s, Minky Momo was made almost entirely just to sell a boatload of toys, and boy did they make a lot of them. Minky Momo records, Minky Momo cups, Minky Momo books and magazines, toy cars, magic wands. Heck, you couldn't turn around without bumping into something with her face on it in 1982. There's even a Minky Momo sewing machine, because why not? They had something they wanted to sell, so they slapped her face on it. It's pretty standard as far as magical girl shows go, and for a while I didn't really get why people loved it so much. I mean, sure, it's a pretty good show, but that was before I saw the giant robot parody episode with combining animal friend mechs. The magical girl genre didn't really have any rules set up in 1982. One episode, Momo might be playing some tennis, and everything's pretty normal, and then out of nowhere she'll turn into blackjack, and you don't even care it's a magical girl show anymore. With all that said, all these references ended up bringing in way more adult fans than they ever expected, but despite its popularity with people of all ages, something happened that would shock the creators of this series down to their very bones. Even though the show was doing pretty good, the toy company that funded Minky Momo thought, hey, we're not making enough money, and they bailed. Some say the toys were just really bad, but whatever the reason was, they just straight up stopped sending them money one day. This all led up to one of the boldest decisions I have ever seen an anime studio take, and something that scarred Japan for life. In episode 45, they make Momo lose all of her magical girl powers by shattering her pendant right after someone just saved her from some bad guys that kidnapped her animal friends. And when the toy company funding the show did not get the message, the people making Minky Momo went, okay, how about we introduce Momo to the isekai truck of good fortune? And Takeshi Shudo, the guy who wrote the show, being the absolute madman that he was, actually went and did it. The truck was full of Kamen Rider toys too, just so you know exactly who they were upset with. What? She got better. Momo gets reborn as her foster parents' real child, and when she grows up she turns back into a kid after spending the entire show doing the exact opposite. It's a bittersweet ending, but it's over 30 years later and we're still talking about it. Could you imagine if they ended Pokemon this way? There would have been rioting in the streets. Now, I'm not saying this is where the whole anime truck thing comes from that bled into everything from Yu Yu Hakusho to modern anime, and honestly, I'd have to watch every single show from before 1982 to really tell you for sure, but if I was a betting man, I'd say this was a large part of it. Oh, that's not the curse of Minky Momo, though. You want to know what is the curse of Minky Momo? People say that when the final episode aired in Japan, an earthquake warning was broadcast right after in the Kanto region of Japan. So not only did the episode itself shock people, but it was so traumatizing, it said that Minky Momo's energy leaked into the physical world where it manifested as a real event. Don't believe me, huh? What if I told you this wasn't technically the end of the show, and that it gets way worse from here? This episode that I just described was the creators of the show just trying to end the anime on their own terms. But it wasn't actually the end of the series. After that, they were contractually obligated to finish that last chunk of episodes like nothing ever happened, and when the actual final episode did air on Japanese TV, guess what happened again? The 26th of May, 1983 is a day that will live on in infamy as one of the worst seismic events to ever hit Japan. And guess what aired exactly when this historic quake happened? That's right, the final episode of Minky Momo. Pure coincidence, you might say. Well, it doesn't end there. According to multiple Japanese sources, when they rebroadcast the series in 1995, the day that they showed the final episode again was the Great Hanshin Disaster of Japan in 1985. This all started an urban legend around Minky Momo that still goes on today. Is it possible that Momo caused these events to happen from the other side? I mean, probably not, but that's a whole lot of coincidences, so I'll let you guys decide. This didn't stop Japan from airing the show on TV, though. It even got shown on Cartoon Network in Japan, where they gave it its own custom bumpers and everything. I'm so happy that I found these. Minky Momo's success got it a couple of sequels, some OVAs, and even a video game for Nintendo's Family Entertainment System, which most of you probably know as the Nintendo Entertainment System in America. No, it didn't leave Japan, completely untranslated, don't even try and look it up. America, though, we never got any of that, except for one VHS tape, which I'm gonna go ahead and talk about right now. Minky Momo and the Fountain of Youth. This one we're lucky we can actually watch in English, but just barely. Harmony Gold released it on VHS under the name The Magical Princess Gigi, and this is the same name a lot of other countries know Minky Momo by too. In this movie, Momo investigates an island that her parents get trapped on, and while she's there, she meets spies from every country on Earth that all want to harness the magical power at the center of the island. And at the top of the middle of that island is a volcano where Peter Pan is turning people back into children, so it's up to Momo to save her parents, stop a fight from breaking out between every single country on Earth, and have some mid-air airplane fights on the way too. It's pretty awesome. I know that sounds kind of boring, but believe me when I say that this is actually a good movie. Most of the animation is fantastic, and you can tell that this was made in 1985 because this looks absolutely stunning even today. Anyway, I don't really have anything else to add about this movie other than it's a great film, and you should probably go watch it. The Japanese version, that is. You probably noticed that horrible tracking problem at the top of the screen. Anime is not meant to look like that. That's my VCR not being able to pick up the signal from the tape. Harmony Gold, in their infinite wisdom, decided, hey, you know what? I've got a good idea. How about we just record the whole movie in extended play mode, and we can just sell people half a tape? You guys do know what extended play mode is, right? That was the mode that you put your VCR on so you could record like 6 or so hours of TV onto 1 hour of VHS tape. The trade-off was that it made whatever you recorded look like absolute garbage, even by VHS standards. I'm 100% sure they did this on purpose too. I have never had an anime start with a disclaimer from some kid saying, hey, you know this tape that we just sold you? Might not work so good. Might want to get that checked out. So yeah, that's a new one on me. I'd also like to point out that they put the entire beginning of the movie at the end of the movie. And they also turned a character from a girl into a boy for some reason. I don't know, man. It was Harmony Gold. Try and figure out what they were doing in the 1980s. Good music, though. Now, even though this is technically an OVA and those are almost always direct-to-video, this actually aired in Japanese theaters. That's how popular Minky Momo was in 1985. Coincidentally, this was the exact same time that rival magical girl Creamy Mammy was also popular, so Piero and Ashi Productions put aside their differences in the name of friendship, and they made a short where both of them have a giant Power Rangers style Sentai battle where they wreck an entire city. Now you would think trying to end the series with a truck would end the creator of the show's career too, but this movie and TV show were so well loved in Japan that they let him write a sequel series in 1991, and that series was so popular that they made a special where both Momos team up to bring dreams and happiness back to the world. Quiz time! Which of these characters is Minky Momo, and which of these characters is the Minky Momo from the sequel series? Trick question. doesn't really matter since they're basically the same character. They did not even try to make these two girls look different. In fact, these two Momos are so identical that they didn't even bother changing the name of the second series until halfway through, where they renamed it Magical Princess Minky Momo, Hold On to Your Dreams. And even after all the dark stuff that they pulled with the first series, they actually doubled down with the sequel. I guess after isekaiing a magical girl with a truck, you can get away with anything. The most important episode from the second series is episode 53, where Momo meets an actual anime animator who worked himself to death, and to fulfill his final wish, Momo turns herself into a cartoon character to finish his anime. He later went on to write the entire Pokemon anime all the way up until 2002, so that's a success story in my book if I've ever heard one. We almost got a third series too, but unfortunately Takeshi Shudo passed away in 2010, leaving that manga that they made in 2004 as the last official part of the franchise. Now here's some more trivia for you. You guys ever hear of a guy by the name of Ishida Toyo? Probably not, right? But he designed the characters for the Fist of the North Star anime, and that's really important because he also worked on Minky Momo. Guess who shows up in episode 38 of Fist of the North Star? Yeah, not Minky Momo, but it looks exactly like her, doesn't it? Minky Momo is still well remembered even today, and everything from its transformation sequences to its darker themes carried all the way into modern magical girl shows too, and Sailor Moon wouldn't even have a talking cat without it. From Italy to France, from Brazil to Indonesia, you name a country, and odds are they have heard of Minky Momo. America is pretty much the only country that never got it for some reason. Lots of people are probably asking themselves at this point, well, where can I watch this then if it's so important? The curse of Minky Momo kind of prevents you from doing that, and I'm gonna go ahead and explain why. It's said that Carl Masek had two series that he passed on and didn't want to buy for Streamline Pictures in the 90s. The first was Dragon Ball, whose Harmony Gold version is still lost media to this day, and the second one was, you guessed right, Minky Momo. They didn't call it Minky Momo though, they went and rebranded it as Princess Gigi, because what even is a Minky Momo anyway, right? Speaking of segues, by pure coincidence, Harmony Gold president Frank Agrama had a daughter, and her name was Gigi. What are the odds, right? This means that the English version only ended up airing in Melbourne, Australia, because that's the only place on the entire planet that felt like buying the English version of Minky Momo to show on TV. YouTube channel This and That Gaming actually comes from Melbourne, and he managed to save a few episodes, and wouldn't you know it, one of them was actually the end of the series with the truck and everything, all in English. They edited around it a little bit, but they actually ended up showing this on TV outside of Japan. I'm gonna leave a link in the description so you can take a look for yourself. Big thanks to This and That Gaming for saving these from becoming lost media forever. Besides those episodes, no copies of the English version of Minky Momo have survived. Except, and I know someone in the comments is gonna point this out, but Amazon Prime says they actually have the entire English version all up there on Amazon Prime Video. Here's the thing about that. In 2015, William Winkler Productions released it on Amazon Prime. That part is true. However, either nobody noticed or they didn't tell anybody because the entire show is gone. If you try and watch it, you get a "this title is currently unavailable" message. That's right, every episode of the Harmony Gold dub was up there, and through some absolutely cursed luck, it was taken down before anybody noticed. This is possibly the only time in anime history that an English dub has become lost media not once, but twice, making this possibly the most cursed anime I have ever talked about on this channel. They say if you say Minky Momo 3 times into a mirror at 3 AM, you get transported to the bad timeline, where Harmony Gold owns the rights to Dragon Ball and Minky Momo grows up to be Hamon Karn from Zeta Gundam. But that's an urban legend for another day. And that's Minky Momo, the most important magical girl show that you've probably never heard about. I'd like to thank all the people who support me on Patreon. Big shout out to Lost in Translation, who helped make this video a possibility. And if you like what I do, you'll be visited by the Isekai Truck of Good Fortune. More lost anime and anime history will come your way, but only if you leave a like and say "Good luck, Minky Momo" in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this video all the way to the end. Take care.
Alright, I feel good. How did you... What? Excuse me? There wasn't even a crit! Game's retarded. No, you're not doing it again. The scout, leave me the fuck alone. Hey, of course it is. Don't like fucking shoot the ground. Don't you shoot me. Don't you. What? I knew you were going to. I hate you.
Don't worry about it.
Oh! How is that not an air shot? I hate this game. You fuck.
Welcome to the pony zone. Only pony, bronies only, extra. Mayor come, the pulsating donut. Face me until you
As Jim Cummings once said, he is the terror that flaps in the night. He is the tweet of justice that spoils your movie of crime. He is the memory that made your childhood. He is Darkwing Duck. Hey guys, I'm Joe with Channel Frederator, and we've discovered quite a few things about the masked mallard just for you. Bad guys are out of luck, cause here's 107 facts about Darkwing Duck. Let's get started. Or should I say, let's get dangerous. In 2016, Darkwing Duck had its 25th anniversary. On September 6, 1991, the first episode, Darkly Dawns the Duck Part 1, aired on ABC. However, it technically premiered on March 31st, though that was considered just as a sneak preview. Darkwing Duck lasted until September 1992, running for 3 seasons with 91 episodes in just 1 year. It's actually odd that the show had 91 episodes. Most syndicated shows only had 65 or 66 episodes, but ABC loved the show so much that they ordered another season specifically for the Saturday morning block, and because that did so well, they ordered a season yet again. To prepare for the premiere of Darkwing Duck, there was a promotional rap music video made in order to get people excited for it. They did this a lot for many Disney afternoon shows back in the day. Tad Stones is the creator of Darkwing Duck. He also worked on series such as DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears, Aladdin, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and Hercules. A big source of artistic inspiration for Stones came from a memory he had as a child, going to Disneyland and buying the original Art of Animation book, all about the process of making Sleeping Beauty. The creative team wanted to propose a reboot of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. They developed Darkwing Duck as a last-minute replacement when they realized Disney did not actually own the rights to Rocky and Bullwinkle. Whoops, crisis averted. The show was pitched as 00 Duck, and based on an episode of DuckTales by the same name. It must have been a really good episode. The name didn't go through, however, because Disney got a letter from Cubby Broccoli, otherwise known as Albert R. Broccoli, the producer of many James Bond films. They couldn't use the name because the Bond franchise legally owned the term 00. The new name was to be decided by a studio contest. The winner was writer-producer Alan Burnett for $500. Burnett actually only suggested the term Darkwing. Stones was the one who added Duck onto it. Burnett later went on to become the story editor and producer on Batman the Animated Series. So even though they were not allowed to use 00 Duck, Darkwing Duck references Bond many times. In the episode In Like Blunt, the name Derek Blunt is a reference to Derek Flint, who is a parody of James Bond in general. Live and Let Spy and Goldfeather reference Live and Let Die and Goldfinger respectively. Actually, as an inside joke in the episode A Duck by Any Other Name, DW suggests renaming himself 00 Duck for his new secret identity, to which Launchpad remarks, Seems kinda silly. You tell him, Launchpad. Also, while Launchpad was in the original 00 DuckTales episode, he was not intended to be in the Darkwing Duck series at first. Instead of having a sidekick, Darkwing Duck was supposed to have a Doc Savage type of group. Actually, Launchpad was made to be a better pilot in Darkwing Duck. Stones mentioned that he crashed all the time in DuckTales. The show itself was quite revolutionary for its time, specifically in regards to how often it broke the fourth wall. The creative team took this element from older Disney cartoons, when characters lived in the moment and spoke to the audience quite a bit. Darkwing's catchphrase, "Let's get dangerous," was coined by Stones. When he first came up with it, he knew they would have to put those 3 words in every single episode. But Darkwing's famous catchphrase formula actually comes from lines the writers wrote for Launchpad first, where he's pretending to be Darkwing and says, "I am the road salt that rusts the underside of your car." They liked it, kept coming up with new ideas, and it became a running gag. Toby Shelton is credited for completing the character design for Darkwing Duck, but Stone started him off by giving him a sketch of a duck dressed similar to the way he saw the Shadow. Who's the Shadow? He's a character from Pulp Fiction novels from the 1930s, which Stones has cited as one of his inspirations for the show. Shelton worked at DreamWorks when he publicly shared his original drawings of Darkwing, and recalled being surprised at how many of his staff members were fans of the show. He now works at Disney Animation Studios. Artist Mike Peraza came up with the idea of Darkwing Duck riding his motorcycle up the cable to get to his secret hideaway. If you look up Darkwing Duck on his blogspot, you can see all sorts of concept artwork for the series. The architecture in Darkwing Duck is classified as Dark Deco, a term coined by the 1992 animated Batman series. It is especially prominent in the title cards, which show Art Deco elements shaded by a noir ambience. Perfect for our feathered crusader. Darkwing Duck's design is also an homage to Daffy Duck's The Scarlet Pumpernickel. While Darkwing Duck is trying to find a new identity, he comes up with the name Scarlet Bafflequack. Not sure which one I like better. Another relation to Warner Brothers is an homage to the cartoonist Tex Avery in The Incredible Bulk. At the end of the episode, there is a reference to his cartoon, King Size Canary, not to mention that there's a character named Mr. Avery in the episode. In Darkwing Duck's first on-screen adventure, Darkwing fights a character named Moriarty, which, yes, is a reference to Sherlock Holmes' arch-nemesis, Moriarty, and keeps him from pulling the moon out of orbit, thus casting the Earth into total darkness. You may have noticed that Gosalyn was also there, even though it was not yet revealed how Darkwing adopted her yet. Later on, this backstory was revealed in a real episode titled That Sinking Feeling. This episode is also considered to be the official pilot of the show. The idea for Gosalyn's character came to be when Stones thought, what if Batman had a little girl who refused to stay at home? He felt she would become the heart of the show, and feels that's what elevated the series overall. Plus, she's Stones' favorite character. Gosalyn was slightly based off of what Stones felt his own daughter, who was 2 at the time, would grow into. Wonder if she did turn out that cool. I mean, probably. The show never confirmed who Gosalyn's parents were, and according to Stone, it will never be revealed. He'll leave that to the fanfiction writer's imagination. Gosalyn also chose an alias name at one point. In That Sinking Feeling, she suggested she was considering fighting crime under the name of the Scarlet Quackcat. She finally did fight crime in Dances with Bigfoot as the Crimson Quackcat. This alter ego never appeared again, but in a later episode, her crime-fighting counterpart returns as the Quiverwing Quack. Which name do you like more? Stone said that while Darkwing was in production, the premiere of Tiny Toons helped make the show more wacky, since they saw how the audience positively responded to Tiny Toons. As popular as the show was with families, after the episode Hot Spells aired, the network received a lot of letters complaining about the appearance of Beelzebub. They were especially upset that Gosalyn made a deal with the devil, and the episode was later banned. Hot Spells also features a cameo of the magic brooms from Fantasia. Do you remember the episode? Did you catch the brooms' appearance? And how are they related to Beelzebub? The world may never know. Our beloved hero, Darkwing Duck, was voiced by the famous Jim Cummings, who said he has a very special place in his heart for Darkwing. Cummings had opportunities to improvise and create his own unique portrayal of the character, which might explain why the dourly dressed hero has such a colorful personality. Cummings refers to Stones as Darkwing Duck's father, but he refers to Jenny McSwain, the dialogue director who helped him develop the voice, as his mother. It's a big happy family. In fact, Jim Cummings loves the show so much that in 2013, Funny or Die did a comedy sketch where Cummings attempts to kickstart a Darkwing Duck movie all by himself, which included animating and voicing all the other characters too. Go see it. Occasionally, when Stones and Jim Cummings are in panels together, Jim Cummings takes on the persona of Darkwing entirely. Take, for example, the 25th anniversary panel at MomoCon. con. He is truly a dedicated voice actor, unless the truth is he actually is Darkwing Duck himself. Speaking of, Darkwing Duck completely denies that there are people who created him, write him, or that Jim Cummings actually voices him. In his own mind, he's 100% real. The show had countless popular voice actors for the other roles. These included Christine Cavanaugh as Gosselin, Katie Lee as Honker, Dan Castellaneta as Megabolt, Frank Welker as Lilliput, Eddie Deason as Mouth, and many, many more. Darkwing Duck was the first afternoon Disney show that was pretty much a parody of other TV series and literature that inspired Stones, among which are The Shadow, Doc Savage, The Green Hornet, The Flash, and Batman. St. Canard is quite a lot like Gotham City. When it comes to Batman, Darkwing Duck references The Dark Knight Returns specifically. This can be seen in the original comic cover of the Darkwing Duck Boom comics. Similar to Batman, Darkwing Duck has a different real name, Drake Mallard. Did you know that? No? Well, then it's a good disguise. The name Drake Mallard is obviously a reference to the most common type of duck there is, a mallard, but it's also a reference to Kent Allard, which is the real name of the Shadow. If you needed any more proof that Darkwing is basically a duck version of Batman, so Bat Duck, check out this drawing that Stones made of Darkwing Duck and Batman. Stones mentioned that another big inspiration for the show was the Silver Age of comics, a term used for superhero comics from 1956 to 1970. Like Stones, Darkwing Duck's inspiration comes from comics too, his favorite childhood hero being Super Pig. He idolized him while he was a kid due to being bullied a lot. Darkwing Duck learned a lot from his great-great-aunt, who was a sideshow contortionist. Specifically, he learned skills like Carpathian bone dislocation, thumb wrestling, and Micronesian breath control. However, he didn't learn everything from her. He also trained under Goose Lee to learn combat. An obvious shout out to martial artist and actor Bruce Lee. At one point, the creative team considered putting Darkwing Duck in spandex like most superheroes, but as they didn't know how to work around the, let's say, bulge that many superheroes get in those stretchy suits, so they decided to keep him pantsless. Not to mention that ducks don't usually wear pants. Tad Stone's favorite villain is Megabolt. Who is yours? Don't forget about Negaduck. Megabolt didn't always have a cool name. His original name was Dim Bulb. Seriously? Would you be afraid of someone who called themselves Dim Bulb? Negaduck's origin story is that Megabolt split Darkwing Duck into Posiduck and Negaduck, using his Tron splitter to separate the Positrons and Negatrons. We swear, it's in an episode, go look it up, it's called Negaduck. Stones compared Negaduck to Batman's arch nemesis. How so? Much like the Joker always comes back, Negaduck just came back whenever they felt like writing him in. Negaduck's costume colors were based on Reverse Flash, Flash's evil counterpart. Stones felt that those colors always symbolized the evil doppelganger. In fact, there's another reference to the Flash in the episode Going Nowhere Fast. In it, there are two doctors named Barry and Allen. And for those who don't know, Barry Allen is the Flash's real name. Stones also wanted to explore Posiduck's character, but ABC executives made the call not to. In the end, Stones felt like it was probably a good call. However, Negaduck has his own team called the Fearsome Five. It consists of himself, Megabolt, Quackerjack, Bushroot, and Liquidator. Though when Negaduck later disappears, the group is renamed to the Fearsome Four. Speaking of Liquidator, he speaks pretty funny, doesn't he? Well, that's because when writing his dialogue, the team made sure that he usually spoke in advertising slogans. There were talks about creating a spin-off show based on the Fearsome Five's rivals, who were called Justice Ducks, a reference to DC's Justice League. The show would have featured Darkwing Duck and Gizmo, with new heroes replacing Morgana Macabre, Dagmut, and Neptunia. There is no official way to spell Morgana's last name, due to it being spelled differently in both licensing and marketing. Stones always assumed it was spelled M-A-C-A-W-B-E-R. Morgana's spooky design was inspired by women from the horror genre. Think Bride of Frankenstein or Morticia Addams. Do you see it now? Stones has mentioned that he could see a hilarious series where Morgana and Darkwing got married and have children. Slice of life of Darkwing Duck? Yes please. Stones created Gizmo Duck for the DuckTales, who later came into Darkwing Duck. Gizmo Duck was first named Roboduck, as inspired by RoboCop. The name Roboduck is still used in various other countries though. Although Gizmo and Launchpad are both in DuckTales and Darkwing Duck, Stones has said that Darkwing Duck is not a spin-off of DuckTales. It takes place in an entirely different universe. On the other hand, there is a 4-part comic book story called Dangerous Currency by Disney Illustrators. It's centered around a full-on crossover between the two series. Launchpad also references his adventures with Darkwing Duck several times in the Uncle Scrooge comics by Boom Studios, so either he can travel through parallel worlds, or it is the same universe. Might be better not to think about it too hard, or maybe the comics are just not canon to the show. Speaking of the Boom comics, writer Ian Brill and James Silvani were odd with how many people noticed their work. For example, when they went to San Diego Comic-Con, they were surprised that people kept asking for their autographs, since they thought that they'd just be strolling around the convention quietly. DuckTales is also referenced in Tiff of the Titans, when Gizmo Duck makes his first appearance on the show, mentioning McDuck Manor. Even Scrooge McDuck makes an appearance on a sign welcoming people to Duckburg. Shush, the secret peacekeeping organization, is how Darkwing Duck brings in the cash, in case you were ever wondering. If you didn't catch it, Shush is a reference to S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's law enforcement agency. Fowl, short for Fiendish Organization for World Larceny, is the evil organization. It's run by 3 mysterious figures in the show, but it seems Disney's merchandising didn't get the memo, so they featured Steelbeak as the group's leader. You can see this in T616's game plot, which is all about defeating Steelbeak, the unmasked operator of Fowl. Darkwing Duck has had quite a few games on the NES, Game Boy, and the TurboGrafx 16, which is Tiger Electronics' handheld console. Not to mention there were games made for many mobile phones. The Darkwing Duck game for the console TurboGrafx 16 is notoriously difficult, to the point where the game critic Angry Video Game Nerd considers it the worst game ever made on the system. But people wanted to play Darkwing games on other consoles as well, so there was also a bootleg Darkwing Duck game for both the Sega Mega Drive and the Genesis from Russia. But there's good news! Capcom brought back the Darkwing Duck game this year in a digital compilation of games based on many other afternoon Disney shows. There were plans to bring Darkwing Duck into Disney Infinity, but then it fell through. Why? He lost his chance in a poll against Olaf from Frozen. Not cool, guys. Not cool. In April 2016, Volume 1 of the new installment of Darkwing Duck comics was released by Joe Books. It seemed they stopped at Volume 8, which came out February 2017. While there is no official statement, comic book writer and editor Aaron Sparrow has tweeted #SaveDarkwing many times in reference to the comic books. In the first issue, Orange is the New Purple, the Main Street Electrical Parade from the Disney parks is referenced. What's interesting is that the issue came out in April 2016, and the announcement for the return of this parade was in August of the same year. Did it predict it, or was it all just a hint? In the comic, there is also a painting of 2 dinosaurs fighting in the background. This is referencing Ford's Magic Skyway, which was created by Disney in the 1964 World's Fair. You can see animatronics of these dinosaurs at Ellen's Energy Adventure in Disney World. A subtle little nod, but we caught on. And here's a fun one. In issue 8 of the comic books, you can spot a Waldo, or for you British fans, Wally, that looks a lot like Darkwing Duck. Looks like Waldo's making his rounds. Did you spot him? In 1991, Darkwing Duck replaced the gummy bears in Mickey's Magical TV World at Walt Disney World during the stage show's 20th anniversary, so he even made his way into the parks. He's made several live-action appearances since then. In 2013, he resurfaced in Disneyland Paris at the Disney Dreamers Everywhere show. Then, in September 2014, Darkwing and Launchpad appeared in Disney California Adventure during an annual pass holder event. Why don't I have an annual pass? Unfortunately, it's not possible to meet Darkwing Duck at the parks anymore. The last time he made a rare visit was in 2016 for the Disney Vacation Club's 25th anniversary. The love for classic Disney films and characters is shown throughout the show. In A Star is Scorned, in order to get into a filming studio, Darkwing dresses as Donald Duck and Gosalyn dresses as Louie. There is a nod to Pinocchio in Something Fishy. After a whale eats Darkwing Duck, it is provoked to sneeze due to internal smoke. It's extremely similar to how Pinocchio and Geppetto escaped from Monstro. Darkwing Duck also references the Great Mouse Detective in several episodes. For example, Darkwing presses a button down on a statue of Basil of Baker Street to activate his spinning chairs. Plus, in the episode called Flim Flam, Andy Ape and Toddler Timmy are parodies of Roger Rabbit and Baby Herman. Darkwing Duck also paid tribute to his fellow afternoon block neighbors. In Flim Flam, he's seen wearing a tailspin shirt after he almost gets sliced in half. As far as other properties referencing Darkwing Duck, and not the other way around, Genie transforms into the Masked Caper in My Fair Aladdin in the Aladdin TV series. In appreciation of other series, there is nothing more 90s than parodying Twin Peaks. Even the name of the episode is on point, Twin Beaks. In it, Honker's aunt is designed after Nadine Hurley and has her own diner based on the Double R Diner. Bushroot's fake corpse is wrapped in plastic, much like Laura Palmer's. Launchpad also remarks, "The cows are not what they seem," referencing the owls are not what they seem line from the show. A Brush with Oblivion is set in a museum seemingly based off of the Guggenheim. The episode even shows real pieces of artwork like American Gothic from 1930, The Persistence of Memory from from 1931, and there are pieces based on artists like Brock, Pierre Mondrian, and Jackson Pollock. In Fungus Among Us, there is a reference to M.C. Escher's extremely famous lithograph print, Relativity. We'll give you a hint where to spot it. Staircases. Got it? There are apparently also several hidden Mickeys scattered throughout the show. Have you spotted any? Let us know in the comments below. The other Disney afternoon series occasionally referenced Darkwing Duck too. You can see this in Goof Troop, where Quacker Jack's logo is on Max's watch. Plus, Darkwing Duck was on the cover of a booklet in Goof Troop. Not to mention Darkwing and Gosalyn appear on Pete's TV at some point. Looks like the Goof Troop staff was full of big Darkwing fans. In the Bonkers episode, Do Toons Dream of Animated Sheep, Bonkers dreams about Darkwing hosting an award ceremony. Of course, Bonkers wins in this dream, and Darkwing is upset about not even having been nominated. If you want to be as cool as Darkwing, and who doesn't, you could own your own gas gun. This one only shoots bubbles, and is technically just a toy, but it's still pretty fun to brag about. There was even a Pizza Hut promotion in the 90s that featured Darkwing Duck. For just $2.99, you got a personalized kid's pizza and a bunch of cool merchandise, including a crime fighter kit. If your VCR no longer works, fear not, Darkwing Duck was released on DVD in 2006. But unfortunately, even if you own both box sets, they're still missing 37 episodes. Time to start a petition. Darkwing Duck won an Annie for Jim Cummings' voice work and was nominated for Best Animated Television Program in 1992. The show was also nominated for 5 categories in the Daytime Emmy Awards, as well as receiving another nomination for the Outstanding New Animated Series in the Young Artist Awards. In 1993, Darkwing Duck was nominated again for the Daytime Emmy Awards in 3 categories, and for the Kids' Choice Awards for Favorite Cartoon. If you were curious, apparently 18% of St. Canard's citizens said that they were happy DW is protecting them, 12% thought he was a menace, and 30% thought he was a glory-seeking menace. The other 40%, they didn't even know who he was. A few years ago, there was a rumor that Darkwing Duck would be returning to the screen in 2018. Sadly, that turned out to be part of an April Fool's joke prank online. Ugh, there go my hopes and dreams. Supposedly, if the new DuckTales does well, it will hopefully open the door to looking at older properties and reinventing them. Once again, I'm Joe, and thank you for watching 107 Facts about Darkwing Duck. Who's your favorite character? Did we miss anything? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. We have videos dropping every day, so make sure to subscribe to Channel Frederator.